Hey there, I've decided to complete my assignment 4 through a video. I chose the aspect of disability for this assignment. So I watched the video of Amelia Arthur's mom and dad on CBC to learn more about their case. So Amelia is a 21-year-old female who is living with autism and epilepsy. She has grown up in a family loving home where her parents provided her with everything they possibly could have. Unfortunately, Dad was diagnosed with cancer and circumstances have changed, and as she's gotten older, it's become a little bit more difficult to deal with some of her outbursts, getting her in and out of the vehicle and doing those kinds of things. They feel for her safety and their safety, and just given their circumstances now, that finding her a long-term care facility would be ideal, or private care, whichever they may be able to get. With that being said, they have come to a halt because the wait lists are so long to get into a long care facility that are government funded, and they also have a lack of funding for private options at this time. So as of right now, she has been surrendered to a respite center where her parents are currently fighting as much as they can to get her some more help and assistance. So using the social work process laid out by Hicks, I would use the following steps to hopefully get them some answers and a solution. Obviously, a social worker's job is to support a family or an individual who are facing challenges and struggling to cope with everyday life, which is something that this family is clearly going through. So I would definitely recommend some social work support. The intake process, since the parents are they're voluntarily doing this, it definitely helps. They are searching to find a solution for their daughter. They are advocating for her. For me, I would personally like to focus on getting all the information that they've gone through at this time, every step they've possibly taken, every person they've talked to, and I would want them to feel confident in me. So I would make sure that all of our conversations were very clear. Clarity is so important between the social worker and the family, so I want them to ask me as many questions as possible, and I would ask them as many questions as possible. I want them to know I'm in their corner advocating for them and their child. I really want them to believe in me and know how much I am here to just help them. So moving into the assessment and planning portion, I would have to analyze everything I possibly could based on the needs, ideas, thoughts, and feelings of the family and the individual, and then working towards creating a plan. So for Amelia's case, she can't advocate for herself. So her parents have been doing a great job to this point, but I would have to take my assessment information from everybody who's been around her current workers, her family members, her doctors, whoever I could possibly talk to, and get more information on where she's at and her specific needs that she cannot tell me herself. I would also need to come up with a plan of action based on all of their needs, and they have quite a bit, obviously with Dad having cancer, and then Amelia needing this long-term support. I think I would specifically look at this through the critical social work theory, because they're not privileged and they tend to need the social work aspect or social services because of their position and in the structures. So this is going to be an economic and a cultural and a social aspect, because she's not the only one going through this. It would take getting into the government and being able to advocate for everybody as much as it is just about Amelia, in this one case, it's about so many more, because she's not the only one going through this, and they're definitely not the only family going through this, but every family is so different. So working with her, my priority would be focused on her. However, I know it's a bigger picture than just her. So I would definitely look at it from a structure of where we can make these changes happen and where we can push and advocate more. She would need lifelong support, so that would play a large role in getting her into a place. I would have to find out more from the family if they're willing to relocate, or if they want only their specific area, and things like that, because there may be better opportunities elsewhere, rather than just near their house. During the intervention process, one of my biggest concerns here would be focusing on counseling for mom and dad too, because their well-being has probably taken a large toll through this whole process. So making sure that not only their child has been taken care of, but that they're being taken care of, and that they're taking care of themselves in every way possible. Dealing with so many things happening, there's no harm in having some extra counseling, being able to sit and listen and talk things out, and let them know that they're being taken care of as well. The other thing is, it depends on so much more information, but taking an approach where you take so many different types of therapies and base what you can on a client's needs. So this is probably where I would go with this, just because even every person who has autism, they are all different, and each person might need something different. So I can't specifically say which theory I would go with right now, just because I feel like it would be a combination. So I would also include some sort of organizational, community, and social action measures, just to help with the process of getting more funding, getting people's attention, making people realize that there is something bigger going on here, and working to maybe getting more facilities or better funding. I'm going to be that advocate for them. So yeah, hopefully that would keep my rapport with the client, make sure they're happy, they're getting all the information that I possibly can give them, and just help them resolve their problem as soon as I possibly could, but do it in a way that is going to make a big difference in their lives. During the evaluation termination, I would work tirelessly until Amelia was in a long-term housing option and her parents felt more at ease, but I would remain in the evaluation phase and continue to push for greater funding options, more facilities, and so much more for people like Amelia. I would be able to stay in touch and keep working with them until she's settled in. Once she's in a long-term facility, they may have their own social workers, so this is where I may be terminated. However, we would have to play that by where she's at, and whether she's in good hands with another social worker, or how that might play out. But I would make sure that I remained in touch as long as possible until I knew she was settled, the family was comfortable, and can even continue with counseling as long as the family needed, and met the goals that we had laid out, to see her in that long-term care facility and being taken care of the way she needs to be. So obviously this is a publicly funded disability program that we would be looking at. Costs would be covered by federal, provincial, or municipal areas. So really just trying to get in and make some noise, make sure they hear us, advocate, and just let them know that we're not going anywhere. And there's so many people, there's another 6,000 people in Ontario alone who also need this kind of support, and they're going unnoticed. So hopefully providing the parents with some more support, getting Amelia into that long care facility would be key. I would be sure to coordinate, making sure every healthcare professional appointments, if they needed support in traveling or making these accommodations, then I would be involved with that. I would make sure, obviously, I've said it multiple times, I would be advocating nonstop for the services that are needed. And then counseling, I would definitely work with the family through some counseling to make sure that they're feeling more comfortable. My areas of strength for this is that I have worked with multiple students with disabilities. I'm currently an educational assistant, and so many different disabilities. I've worked with students with autism, students who have Down syndrome, speech language, expressive, receptive delays, you name it. I've worked with them, and just being able to see single-handedly how difficult each of these can be on a family, and how different each family is in handling these or in dealing with these. It's definitely been eye-opening for me. I'm a huge advocate for people with disabilities. I myself am a type 1 diabetic who deals with a disability on a daily basis. It might not be the same type of disability, but it's still something that I can relate to these other people, and understand how frustrating it can be sometimes when you need funding and it's not there. I think it's important that everyone gets the support they need. I'm great at empowering people, and making sure people see that there's a bigger picture, that we're not fighting for just something so small. We're fighting to change lives. That's key. And I'm good at problem solving, so every single family that came my way would be a different plan of action. It would be a different person I'd be dealing with in a different family. I'm really good at listening and making sure that I validate parents and individuals' feelings, and giving as much information as possible that I can to them, to make sure they know that they're not alone. So many people are dealing with the same thing. In Canada right now, from the 2018 consensus, it was 1 in every 66 kids between the ages of 5 and 17 were diagnosed with autism. And so just seeing those kind of stats, you know that there's going to be a bigger demand and a bigger need here in the coming years for these long-term facilities, depending on where the child is on the spectrum. Areas for additional learning and further development. I would need to definitely learn some more about the way the government facilities run, and how I could get better at supporting families getting into these programs. I would need to also learn more about better options elsewhere, whether it's private or going into the government facilities or going into provincial facilities, just kind of whatever they may be. Just learning more about the subsidies that come with it, making sure I understand financially where people are at and what they can get versus what they can't get. So those would be the areas that I would specifically work with in here. Well, thank you so much. Have a great day.